Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is for discussion board post number 2 of why we study history. In order to comprehend and fully understand why we study history, we have to understand what history is first. And history is His story. It's God's story. God's story beginning from Adam and Eve to Jesus Christ, to our redemption, our salvation, and our sins being forgiven. So that's one element of what history is. It's God's story. In order for us to study history, we have to make sure we have the proper tools and the proper skills at our disposal. So what that means is we have to be thinking critically. We have to ask the deeper questions, not just of who, what, when, and where, but why and how, for us to completely grasp something. And this is very important because for us as followers of Christ, we have to be able to explain the Bible, to explain what salvation is, to explain what redemption is to a non-believer. And how does this help us in the historical aspect when we do our research as historians? Well, this helps us because we're searching for the truth, and we know that we cannot just look at sources that we like. We also have to look at sources that may be different than what we think of, that may have different conflicting views than us. While we have to look at them, that doesn't mean we fully accept them at face value. We have to think critically and try to understand and try to grasp at how the other side supposedly gets their view on a certain issue. So we look at the evidence they look at. We look at the credibility of the evidence that they look at. And from there, we can refute their evidence with our scholarly resources that we have fully invested in and looked up. So, while we study history, while we look at the events, the places, we also develop the critical skills to look at the why and how. And those are skills that we can apply in our daily lives and the current events going on in the world right now, especially with our upcoming election, the current COVID-19 crisis, the judicial court nominations going on in our country right now. So these are the skills that we learn while conducting historical research that we can apply to our daily lives. Now, also, for historical research, we're looking at different scholarly articles, and we're also looking at how those articles are applicable to our sources. We're looking at the different viewpoints that historians have had over time. We look at how historical events during the time that they've written have made an influence on their outlook on a certain event. So, for example, historians writing in the 1960s may have been influenced by the civil rights movement of what was going on during that time frame. So, therefore, that's going to shape their outlook and their thesis on a certain issue. So, made applicable to my topic, which is Irish American immigration in the 1800s. So, I'm looking at the 1830s all the way up until the end of the 1800s into the 1900s. So certain issues that we're going to look at are Irish famine, the Civil War. So historians writing during that time frame of the 1960s may be looking at Irish immigration through the eyes of social history. They may be looking at Irish immigration during the Civil War time frame in terms of social history as well. So they may be looking at issues of agency. They may be looking at issues perhaps related to class struggle. They may be looking at issues related to race relations, especially coming to the United States at the time. So there are certain ways that historical outlook and research are going to be affected by historians writing within a certain time frame. So those are the things I need to be taken into consideration when I'm reading those sources. And again, historical research and historical study are very important because they help us develop the skills that we need to look at sources with a critical lens, and also to look at our current events going on and to be fully knowledgeable and comprehend and be able to explain why something is occurring within a certain time frame. Thank you.